One thing that I think is really underutilized is there are lots of leaders on LinkedIn who aren't using their voices. And I think sometimes it's bandwidth and they're maybe not a social media person, but I think there's a lot of reluctance of maybe what I have to say isn't smart or valuable. Don't over-perfect it. Be you. Being somewhere, where you've left and tried different things, good experience. Like we need that diversity of thought.
Right.
And I feel like we talk about it, but we don't always pursue it, if that makes sense.
Right. As we talked about on Friday night, we don't want to be the smartest in the room.
No,
I do not want to be the smartest in the room.
No.
I want people like you to be here and bringing different thought.
And if you've ever been like in an elevator at a grocery store and you make eye contact with someone and they don't acknowledge you, it's a really dismissive feeling. It feels lousy. And so I'll look at certain people who don't look up and say hello to the doorman or, to their colleague or whatnot. And my favorite thing isn't talking with them about what they can purchase, which is obviously the most high value, but it's, okay, within LinkedIn, what can you do as a leader, as an individual? Like, how can you broaden your network? How can we make connections? What are all the things that you can do that don't have to cost a lot, but can have a really big impact in aggregate?
Some helpful hints, some thoughts to kind of leverage what we know is already there.
I think there's a couple of things, and to demystify something like LinkedIn, it's a big topic. Keep it simple. So I think a couple of things.
So I'm so excited that we can pick up where we left off last Friday, right? And first of all, thanks for saying yes, right? And we're here. We've got a connection. Nisi is our connection point, and we're chatting at the TFA event, which was phenomenal, right? So great. What a great cause. Great room, great energy, right? And yet your energy far surpassed the energy in the room. So how do you do that? That was a Friday night after a long week. You kept bringing it.
Oh my gosh.
What's up with that?
What a compliment. I usually think it's kind of a byproduct of being a spaz, but I love that came off that way. We have Nisaini in common. She's a great friend. She's a mentor for me. So she's been bringing me into these rooms. And what's really interesting, and I'll make kind of a side point, I'm an extrovert, but I'm a shy extrovert.
Ooh,
so going into those
we're going to have to
rooms,
unpack that.
Truly, and I think I've realized this, I get tons of energy from being around people. However, I'm quite shy and always insecure and in my head and feel like I'm a, freshman in high school again.
Right.
So all that to say, I think I felt like there was an opening with you. You were friendly. You gave me the energy to then be truly myself and ask all the questions. And
that's so cool.
I think I feed off other people's warmth, I guess is the way to put it.
I love that. That's so nice.
Yeah, and it was an awesome event. I felt so inspired.
Right. And again, the energy in the room was phenomenal. Great mission, right? But frankly, I hate to say this, don't share this with Nisi. The best part of the night was at the end when you, me, and Robbie were chatting and just kind of catching up and then just learning about each other and because I know you know Robbie, but I didn't know you two. And
we don't know each other that well.
And it would have been very easy for you to just kind of chat amongst the two of you, but you opened up and we just had a wonderful conversation.
It was terrific.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing so much, because I think what's interesting too is we don't talk to people with different perspectives, different roles very often. And so what you were sharing about the council that you're part of, tell me again what it's called.
So Chicago Leadership Circle.
Yes. I just thought the conversations y'all are having they're big, which can be overwhelming, but it's really interesting to be able to think about it from all of our different vantage points. So I geek out on that stuff.
It was really good. So so thank you for feeding that energy into the group. And then, kind of my epiphany was I just heard from a guest that they weren't able to make today's taping, and I tossed it out there, and you were all in. So
100%.
What was going through your mind at that point when I said, "Hey, we've got a podcast. Would you be interested in joining me on the intersection?" I'm sure you're like, "What? What?"
No, I'm sure I didn't let you finish. I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm available." Meetings, I'll cancel them. I don't know. I get so excited. So I'm in my job right now. I work with nonprofits and we consult. Officially, I'm in sales. If my boss is listening to this, he would not say I'm amazing at the close. But the conversations that you're having, what got you into it? Why do you do this work? Just the organic piece is my whole life. That's what I get excited about. And so to have a conversation, if someone's listening, fantastic. If not, it feeds me. So I got so excited about it. And I think I'm just so curious about this medium because it doesn't feel as rehearsed, right? As other things. It doesn't feel as performative. It feels much more organic. And
completely.
That's
as you can tell.
Brilliant.
You have your coffee, I have my Diet Coke, and we have no notes in front of us. It truly is just a conversation. And thanks for joining us, folks, by the way. Here we are, The Intersection by Oak Leyden. RJ McMahon, CEO. Nupur, Kanodia from LinkedIn. Literally, we just met 4 days ago, and here we are.
Yes.
So can't wait to unpack today and then just to keep this rolling. That's what I'm excited about. Today's going to be awesome. But then just being in your orbit, I'm so excited. So
I feel the same. I truly feel the same.
That's really
and I'm sure
kind
you do
of
that with
say.
Everybody in your orbit, family, friends, people you work with. It's contagious.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're going to have some fun. So I'm excited, right? So this is really great. So again, thanks for joining us, folks. Like, comment, subscribe to our channel, YouTube channel. Subscribe, please join us. Tell your friends and family. This is going to be a great episode. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a fun ride. So here we are. 4 days ago, right? I messaged you. You actually reached out right away in LinkedIn because that's what you do, right?
Yes. But I will tell you, I think with LinkedIn specifically, to do a work plug for a second, I think it's something that it's almost like instantaneous, saying hello, how do I know you? It's less about like the optics and more for me. I want to remember how I met you and how I connected. And we had this great conversation, which I feel like for you and I probably happens often. So not to minimize
very fortunate.
But like I need to know,
Right.
what happened? Why was it so great? How did we meet?
Right, totally. No,
like
and you put that in your request, right? In your connection request, right? Is great to meet you at the event, right? So and I overheard you say that to someone else that evening. Like, that's so good because 9 times out of 10, I'm just sending a request to get connected and not putting any context around it.
Exactly. So, and then it's meaningless, 20 years later or a couple months later when you're trying to use it. So easy peasy thing. Even for your phone, right? For my contacts.
Right.
Like, you should look at my contact notes and what's in there. And I'm like, told an inappropriate joke, was wearing a red shirt. I know her brother from tennis. Like, I think that's important.
That is. Context is good, right? Context is important, right? So that's really good. And so note to self, right? And note to context, right? That's good to do, right? So I'm not really good at that. I as I get older, I worry that I don't recall all of those contextual points. Yeah. And maybe I'm giving myself a little bit too much credit when I was younger. I don't know that I recalled it then either, but I felt better about, I'll remember, when we connected and when I met X, right? So, so I need to do that.
This might be like a controversial point, but I think for good or bad, it's what is it called? The
universe?
Something's out of the box.
Oh, the cat's out of the box?
Yes, that phrase. We'll find it. We're outsourcing so much to AI right now. Like, we're outsourcing so much to all these things that I think our recall about is actually important to us is minimal. And so for me, I'm someone that, like, relationships or emotional moments is how my memory works. So to capture that, I think is actually it's an important technique for me personally, but I don't think that works necessarily for everyone.
No, and I think we all have to kind of find our own stride, right? And to really make that make the connection or make the piece that sticks, right? And I think we learn differently, right? And I didn't realize I learned differently until I was well out of school, right? And there are ways that we can continue to learn. And so, let's take a little bit of time to kind of unpack that, right? So, you're a Wolverine, right? You're from, right?
Just won the national championship.
Exactly, right? You're a Michigander, right? So you grew up, went to Michigan, and then you decided, all right, an undergrad is not enough. So I wanted more schooling. So talk a little bit about kind of as you were graduating, right? And what we hope to do is share some life lessons, in our conversations, and then talk a little bit about how everything weaves together. But as you're graduating and just thinking about, all right, what's next? What was next for you? How did you settle on, the masters that you pursued?
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know that I would call this the roadmap for other people necessarally.
It's not linear, and that's okay.
It's not linear. We talked about this.
Right.
Yeah, my whole life is a cul-de-sac, which is like both. We need to focus.
Right.
That's not.
We'll dive into that later. Right.
Yeah. So headline is I went to the University of Michigan. Go Blue. Very excited about that. I think like a lot of students, definitely, and I graduated 25 years ago. retinol. So I
there's no way that 25. So you graduated, you were 12, 8, right?
Anyways.
I mean, yeah.
So I just think that for especially then and especially now, I should say, it's so competitive. There's so much out there. I can't imagine being a young person today and feeling all this pressure, but I certainly went to school not knowing what I wanted to do. And what was interesting is I was involved with something called Dance Marathon, still a big deal at the University of Michigan. And that became that was basically my major to my parents' chagrin.
Right.
But it was a nonprofit. It was, tons of skills that I learned, planning, budgeting, all sorts of things. But all that to say, what I knew is that I wanted to do something in a helping profession. And so I graduated, moved to Chicago, worked at like an advertising agency, like a peon. I did not know what I wanted to be when I grow up. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But something that felt smart at the time was graduate school.
Right.
And so I went back to the University of Michigan for a dual degree in public health and social work. And
Amazing.
I will say, thank you.
Truly.
Sometimes I had that in my signature for my email.
Right.
Mainly because I paid for those degrees and I want them to get like some airtime. Because But I'm like, I got these. Someone's going to know. It's a combination of, I think, graduate school can be so powerful. I think too many people use it as, I don't know what I want to do, so let me go here.
Right.
That was definitely my experience. I'm grateful for it, but I also don't know that the world has to look the exact same way for everyone. So I'm not sure it helped me get to where I am, but I'm grateful that I've had exposure to different fields and populations and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if anything, I'll say, I think the exposure I had to, disadvantaged communities, vulnerable populations, that kind of a thing, the empathy, I think that I started off with as a person, but then developed in school. That is maybe the most valuable thing I took away from graduate school outside of, specific skills and that kind of a thing.
Right. But that's what shapes us, right? And
for sure.
So an MPH and an MSW, so how is it concurrent? Like, are you taking classes for both, or do you do one degree then the next? How does that work?
Yeah, so to back up and just give a little bit of context, at least 2 decades ago when I went to graduate school, the University of Michigan is one of these schools that just does a really great job of interdisciplinary education.
Okay.
And so I kind of knew that. I started off in social work, and here's kind of an interesting, maybe this can be a tip for folks. I kind of got scolded into going to public health, and I'll keep it simple, which is I was in social work. I knew I wanted to be, I wanted to help, but I wasn't the science brain.
Okay.
I wasn't going to be getting a biology or chemist degree.
Right.
That's not the way my brain works. And so social work was my way of becoming a clinician. And so I'm doing my practicum. I'm at the University of Michigan Hospital, and I'm working with patients. And these are some are hospice patients, some are lung transplant. These are pretty sick patients.
Right.
And I'm helping them out to the degree that I'm also learning. But my feedback from my preceptors was, you are too focused on the macro. You need to focus on this patient and this patient only. So I'm asking questions like, we get all these samples from at the time, pharmaceutical companies. There's a huge homeless population in Washtenaw County. Why can't we help facilitate distributing these medications and these hand sanitizers?
Right.
All that to say, my mind was constantly thinking programmatic, but my focus and my discipline was, very focused on the immediate.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, well, you can't hold me back. That sounds much more dramatic and badass than I meant it to be. But I just felt like, okay, if the issue is the discipline, then let's broaden that. So I actually added the public health degree, and I focused on health behavior and health education. I have a perspective that some graduate degrees these days feel a little bit like glorified bachelor's degrees. I don't always know that we're going the full distance in terms of how much we push it. But what I think is cool is that I was able to have exposure to 2 different student groups,
right?
The different things we're focusing on. What's interesting too is I think I didn't have a traditional career where I went into social work as a licensed social worker, or even like a public health professional.
No.
But my life has kind of evolved in different ways and taken parts of that. So in my work right now, I feel like I'm actually channeling back, hearkening back to my social work training more than I did in the last 10 years of my employment.
Makes sense.
That's a long-winded way of saying things have connections that you don't always realize.
Right.
And you can't always plan for them, but there's something about trusting that it'll work, come to fruition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think so many times, as professionals, as people, we don't know that what we're doing today will impact somewhere downstream, right?
Absolutely.
And you never know in the moment. And then all of a sudden, I'm sure you find yourself today, right, working with nonprofits via LinkedIn, something that was covered back in whether you're getting your social work or your MPH, and you think, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that in years. And who knew that this would smooth out this conversation or this problem or whatever it might be, right? That's what I love.
Absolutely. That kind of like aha moment or the full circle moment that happens. It's we should all take a minute to embrace that, feel that, because I do think whatever your belief system is, whatnot, the universe, whatever you want to call it, I don't always feel like there's accidents, right? Or just maybe not pre-planned, but there's these moments that can be really powerful if you give it the right
if you're present.
Credence.
If you're present and open to it, right? And I think for us that was Friday, right? And right, so we were proximate, we were open to the conversation, and now here we are, right? So I'm really kind of in awe that you said yes and that we're here and just really having a great conversation. So thank you again. I'm going to say that a few more times.
Thank you so much. And I have a feeling you're like me, like you'll go on an airplane and have a conversation with the person next to you or in an Uber. And those are usually the most stimulating ones because they weren't planned. They're like spontaneous. Right. So I think that's, the world is heavy. And so when you have a chance to meet somebody that you wouldn't ordinarily cross paths with, it's not just an opportunity, but I think it's like a gift.
Totally. I'm with you. I'm with you. So so really good. So so you graduate and you're back in Ann Arbor, right? So you're finishing up your degrees, and now what are you thinking? Like, I'm sure your family's thinking, oh great, she's back from Chicago. She'll never go back to Chicago again. She'll be here, right? In closer proximity. So what transpired after that?
Yeah. So I graduated from graduate school in 2008, and we had this recession.
Yes. And I recall that.
That was not the best time ever. And listen, I was someone with a lot of privilege. I had just gone to graduate school. I had skills. I had family support, but it was still difficult. And so I do think it's kind of like playing Plinko, that game on Price is Right. Like, I wonder what would have happened if I graduated a semester earlier.
Right.
Would I have, ended up doing something really different?
Right, exactly.
A couple roles later, I ended up moving to Washington, D.C. And in my head, I was like, okay, where do they make policy change? Where do they set up how people
Macro.
Yes.
That's macro,
exactly.
Right?
And I found myself working at an organization called Active Minds, which is a really special organization created by Allison Malman, which is really focused on mental health and destigmatizing mental health and making sure that people can feel proud of who they are and get the support they need. And she focuses on collegiate communities. So I did essentially programming with them. And what I think is interesting is I don't know that anything has ever been planned, right? At least for me professionally. And I look at folks who went to medical school or law school or something of that nature, and their life is so prescribed.
Right.
And I'm both jealous of that and envious, and also like, I don't know that I could have done that. Like, that doesn't necessarily feel like my constitution. I'd like to be a little bit more organized,
right,
or intentional at times,
or forced, right?
Maybe something, but it's just not the way things work. And so I worked in nonprofit. It was, financially really difficult. It was an expensive city. What's interesting is I actually left nonprofit. So the theme here is that I've always wanted to do mission-driven work, and so helping is important to me. That feeds me. It's not for the optics of like looking good or looking like you're a good humanitarian, but truly, I just don't get excited.
Right.
My very first job, I think I was selling Crest white strips, and I was like, this does not do it for me.
Not feeding the soul?
No. And great company, right? Like, terrific company, good product, all the things that just didn't get me excited. So all that to say, I took a break from nonprofit and went to a corporation, partially because I think one thing that is challenging about nonprofits is they're so strapped with resources, financially, human resources, strategic resources, that a lot of times your own professional development is on the back burner.
Completely.
And I have a colleague, Jason Thurman, shout out. He just had his a little kiddo. He said to me once, if we think about it, nonprofit is filling the gap that government and business left. It's kind of like what's left over is these nonprofit professionals.
It's that intersection.
Exactly, are coming in and they're filling the gap. And I would argue that to be a skilled professional and really just a holistic person that can contribute in different ways, you have to have exposure to different things. So having exposure to a nonprofit, having exposure to a corporation, different sizes, et cetera, I think those are really valuable. So when I look at folks who say, well, is it okay that I'm switching jobs? I would say all of it's valuable.
Yes.
Like being at a company for 20 years, awesome,
Right.
great experience. Being somewhere, where you've left and tried different things, good experience. Like we need that diversity of thought.
Right.
And I feel like we talk about it, but we don't always pursue it, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So if I think about designing a team, like I want people who have genuinely different experiences and perspectives.
Right.
Which
Diverse thought.
Yes.
Right. As we talked about on Friday night, we don't want to be the smartest in the room. Like
No,
I do not want to
right.
be the smartest in the room.
No.
I want people like
clear I'm
you
not.
to be here and bringing different thought and really it's collective, right?
Yeah.
It's an axiom because it is. We're stronger together, right?
Truly.
And so, don't we want more voices around the table? Don't we want more people in the room?
I have this maybe metaphor that I use often. Actually, it's a little out there, but I think it'll apply. So if you go to a wedding, right? Like the wedding is with the bride and the groom and the family and et cetera, et cetera. But all of us as participants or people who attend, we care about two things. What two things do you care about when you go to a wedding?
Wow. I care about,
Or like what?
three things, right?
Yes.
So I care about the couple, right?
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So blah, 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 right? I'm interested in what the food is,
There you go.
right? And I'm interested in the music. Like,
There you
is
go.
it a band, DJ,
Bingo.
right?
This was not planned. Exactly. Your experience is gonna be the music and the food,
Right,
generally
right,
speaking.
right.
And somehow this made great sense to me in my mind 10 seconds ago. But I think about like when you're interacting with people or whether it's at a dinner party, at work, whatnot, if people are part of the experience, if it's connected to them directly, they have a bigger stake in it and then they have more incentive to be part of making it great, keeping it healthy,
Right.
keeping it sustainable.
Yes.
If you have too many people at the top and not involving folks, that experience they're disengaged, right?
It's this deep.
Yes.
Right.
This was much more eloquent in my mind, but I do really think there's something about when you have conversations with people about their perspective, their life, just asking, how their day is, where did they grow up, those sorts of things, involving them, engaging them. It's a completely different outcome.
Right.
And I sadly don't think that we do that enough.
No. And I think we
so-
do it even less post-COVID,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're not proximate as much as we used to be,
Right.
right? And I think when we are, it feels like for different purposes, if that makes sense, right? And we're just not we're not as engaging, I think, right? And with that engagement comes curiosity.
Absolutely. And that's actually a skill. So I have a good friend, Jamie Hogue, who has a great business called a leadership business. And he talks about how curiosity is a skill and it's kind of this foundation of everything, right? And you kind of can't, you can fake it. Correction. You totally can fake being curious. But innately, if you are
but
genuinely
folks
curious.
know when you're
Right,
faking it,
right?
right?
Mostly.
Mostly.
But I do think that there's something about, like, if you truly are just curious, it's a completely different vibe, the amount of information you can garner.
Right.
I mean, that's certainly the way I partner with my nonprofits is,
Of course.
if it's all transactional, then it's not going to be as valuable. But if it's, hey, I really want to know what motivates you. I really want to understand what you're struggling with so I can see where I can be helpful. I think that curiosity is an under-focused on skill.
Absolutely. Absolutely, right? But there's got to be something inside that brings it forth, right? Because if I view this as transactional, I'll have 10 questions, I'll ask the 10 questions, and then we'll be done. Thank you for
Right.
showing up. Thank you for sitting in this chair, and it may or may not see you again, right?
Right.
But if there's a genuine curiosity, right, that I am truly, or whomever, right, whoever would be sitting here and there, if there's a genuine curiosity to learn more about what makes you tick, like how did you get here, literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
that I'm going to learn so much more by just feeding that, right? And because I am curious, and that's how I want to learn. I want to get better, and I think essentially I think we all do, right? So we just have to be that much more intentional in doing it.
I think so too. And I'll say this, your title is CEO, I believe,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So not my title. Congratulations. That's an exciting title. We get
It's a blessing and the curse, right?
I believe that. I'm not a parent, but I think the same thing about parents. Like, you get paid the big bucks because you got to do some stuff that's
Absolutely.
not always great. Glamorous. All that to say, I think I feel intimidated by people that are either not like me, whether it's age, whether it's level, et cetera. And so if there is a space like we had at the dinner on Friday night, that it feels like equals, or at least there is a sense of a shared experience.
Totally.
The walls are down. And so this is where, when I was mentioning I'm a shy extrovert, clearly an extrovert, but I feel like I need an opening emotionally from a security standpoint to then have a conversation. And then it's like, I will be me for good, bad, ugly. But I have to have that moment.
I get that.
Of safety.
Right. Absolutely. Walking into a room that's not your room, right? And I don't care how extroverted you are you going to kind of burst into the 5 people who are talking and just kind of, announce yourself? I mean, that's a whole different level in my mind, right? And there have been plenty of rooms over the course of time. You're extrovert, I'm an extrovert, but I like the shy extrovert piece. I hadn't thought about it that way. I've walked through and in and around and done a figure 8 and really haven't had an opportunity to jump in, and I walk out, right? And
completely.
And that's real also, right? Yeah. And because it's not my room to go in and I don't know, just pontificate, I guess, is what it feels like sometimes, right? And it's better to kind of be in a group and a fly on the wall, right? And I think this is what we have to learn from that is we need to continue to invite people into our room, into our table, really into our circle, right? Because if people like you and I aren't comfortable jumping in, how about those folks that are introverts? Right. How do they get a voice at the table?
Yeah, in fact, I feel the sense of responsibility right now, right, to be more mindful. And I have a feeling that you and I, maybe in our lives, have been the folks that are bringing in someone that isn't already in the conversation.
Sure.
So if we're feeling that way, you're 100% right. And there's pieces of sometimes the conversation doesn't spark, or certainly I don't consider myself an expert in really anything. So I would rather listen and learn, subject to conversation. But I think that happens so much more, and I think post-COVID too, right? There's a sense of social awkwardness that a lot of us feel. Social norms have changed. We're talking about kind of professional settings, I will tell you, because this is very relevant for my life. Right. The dating world has gotten so strange, right? So just being in a bar, you don't talk to people.
Really?
Well, either no one talks to me or I don't talk. Either way, the point is it's not what it used to be.
Interesting.
And so even neighbors, I live in a high rise in Chicago, and there's a few folks that I've seen for 5 years who do not know who I am, and I'm thinking, just look up and say hello. Right. And so I think it's become acceptable to stay in your lane and to have an emotional mask on, whether it's a physical one or not. Yeah. And it's okay if that's your preference. I just think that I don't know that that's what everyone prefers. I think it's sort of we've all adapted to this way, and we have to kind of unlearn these social invisible walls.
Right. And whether I'm putting that up or you're putting that up, right? But I think it's real. You're absolutely right. And I think so. And I'm sure in an apartment, in a condo, high rise, right, where you're just that much more proximate to folks. You're in an elevator, you're in a stairwell, you're in it's just, I think folks probably feel like I gotta put something up here, right?
And have you ever been in an elevator in a grocery store and you make eye contact with someone and they don't acknowledge you? Mm-hmm. It's a really dismissive feeling. It feels lousy. And so I'll look at certain people who don't look up and say hello to the doorman or, to their colleague or whatnot. And I guess I'm going to sound very judgmental. I hope I never present that to someone else.
Right.
This sense of I don't even see you.
Right.
And so it's a little thing, but I think it really speaks to your character.
I think so. And I think it's also, I think it's regional, right? And so I'm smiling because
Fair.
our daughter and son-in-law and our grandson live in New York, and so they're on the east side, and when I'm out walking, whether with them or my bride, and I routinely say hello to the doormen who are. I mean that's their role, right? And so I'm saying hello,
their
or
office.
right, and exactly, right, and I'm sure they think to themselves, "Who is this knucklehead, and why is he?" But that's the Midwestern guy that I am, right? And so I was smiling when there's certainly that part, right? But I can't help myself. Like Sunday morning, walking around Manhattan, it's really a good place to be because there aren't many people, but folks are walking their dogs, and of course I'm saying hello, and like we don't do that here.
They know
right?
you're a tourist. I think that's the biggest thing that I would worry about is like you
yeah,
saying hello.
it's rather it's rather obvious. Absolutely,
I'm sure they appreciate it.
I'm not sure that they do.
May I comment on something? Did you just refer to your wife as your bride?
I did.
That is so sweet.
Thank you. She is.
I
right?
love that.
So I learned that from my dad, and
I love that, Dad. If you're listening,
right?
Dad.
So so she's my bride. So
I love that.
coming up on, 37 years in a few weeks.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
So thank you. Yes, she's my better half. If she were sitting here, you'd be like, yeah, you definitely did outkick your coverage.
Well, I hope we all do.
Right.
Present company included.
There we go. Exactly. We got to work on that.
Yes.
That's
you never
part
want to be
two.
the smartest in the room.
Right.
You never want to be right. Like
right.
play out.
Exactly. Food for thought. Right.
Totally.
So yeah, that's good. So here we are. So you've been in and around, right? This nonlinear journey, right? And how did you end up at LinkedIn?
Yeah.
I'm curious we didn't unpack that on Friday night. So I really want to hear more about that.
So I work at LinkedIn, and I work at a part of LinkedIn called LinkedIn for Nonprofits. It's a specific organization within LinkedIn, and we support mission-driven organizations so they can spread their mission, get the best talent, really have a competitive edge, build their brand awareness, all those sorts of things. I came to LinkedIn after being laid off at CEB, corporate executive board that was acquired by Gartner. And I was in an engagement role there, so also client facing.
Right.
But I was laid off, and I firmly believe that I have a lot of blessings. I have lots of privilege. Sometimes things that you don't plan can be the best thing ever.
Right.
And so I have a friend of mine who I worked with previously who mentioned, hey, there's this program at LinkedIn where they take people who are mid-career, who've never been in a sales capacity, so they've never truly sold,
right.
But they have other skills and they can learn and they're motivated. And
right.
they put them in this program called Unlock. That was something that was available at LinkedIn some years back. And so I was part of this program. I was not a success. I would say like lots of panic attacks, lots of...
Interesting.
I'm an extrovert, but I was not comfortable selling. I was really scared about it. I did not think I was going to last 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. It's been 7 years.
Right.
My mom reminds me of this a lot. And I think she thinks she's helping, but like, Mom, I got it. Like, I got it. I'm good. But I really had a difficult time. I mean, mad anxiety and mad imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something I never knew was a term until I came to LinkedIn.
Interesting.
And everyone's smart and kind and motivated. And I have this like rule of 3, which is most people, unless I love you, should either be attractive or smart or kind, but like all 3 is greedy. Uh-huh. And everyone there was like attractive and intelligent and kind. And that
wait,
I did not like
I'm
this.
getting overwhelmed.
I just need you to have like one flaw.
Right. Please.
Ideally. I think you're more relatable if you have a flaw.
Right. Totally.
Right? That's my perspective. It's not popular. And so I found out about the nonprofit team and I thought, okay, that's the intersection.
Right.
I wanted to be in tech. I felt like selling is a great skill. I certainly think of myself as a consultant versus a salesperson. And then I thought...
Consultative selling.
Exactly.
That's a thing.
That's it,
right.
Truly. And everyone that we work with is intelligent. No one's buying stuff just to buy it, right?
Right.
Everyone's being, especially a nonprofit, incredibly thoughtful about their resources and conservative. So all that to say, when I found out about this nonprofit team, this felt like the right intersection of skill set, personality, focus area. And so I've now been with LinkedIn for Nonprofits for about 5 years. And I get to work with all different issue areas. That was something else I felt like I struggled with when I was younger of how do I choose? Is it going to be adult or pediatric?
Right.
Is it going to be health or environmental? Like I had this sense of I want to do it all. And what's interesting is now I'm in a position where I'm
Now you
supporting
can.
about 60, 70 nonprofits that
Wow.
are across the gamut. And what's interesting too is perhaps unpopular to my leadership team. My favorite thing isn't talking with them about what they can purchase, which is obviously going to be most high value, but it's okay, within LinkedIn, what can you do as a leader, as an individual? Like, how can you broaden your network? How can we make connections? What are all the things that you can do, that don't have to cost a lot, but can have a really big impact in aggregate?
Right.
And so that's something that I really believe our mission, which is
Right.
that we want to give everyone an economic opportunity to be successful.
Absolutely.
And that is a way to do it, whether it's mission driven
great.
or something else. So yeah, it's been several years now, and it's been a privilege to talk to so many different passionate leaders. A lot of changes in the industry.
Right.
So that's been something that's interesting to navigate on both ends, but certainly a lot of learning.
Right. That's great. So kind of at the macro level, what are you seeing, from your clients, right?
Yeah.
So 60, 70, right? All different kinds of, verticals that you're in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content out there about the state of nonprofits,
Yeah.
right? And the work that many of us are doing. So I'm curious kind of what you're seeing from your end.
It's so interesting. I just had this thought because as we've talked since we met 4 days ago, dating always creeps into my world. So self-promotional,
here we are,
I'm not sure.
right.
I'm available, everyone, just so you know.
Let the record show.
Let the record show. We have a different pitch for that. Elevator pitch. But there's
Will that be in the comments?
We can remove that. There's an app called Hinge. This is a real thing. There's an app called Hinge, and I think their tagline is it's designed to be deleted. Like the goal is for us to find matches and then for us to be
boom.
obsolete.
Right.
In a weird way, that should maybe be like the nonprofit mantra as well. Like
Right.
we want to be such that eventually our additional services aren't needed.
Right.
That should maybe in some ways be the goal, or that we are partnering so we don't have to always start a new nonprofit because someone is taking care of this issue.
Correct.
And so I say that I've lost my train of thought. It was going to be awesome.
Well, it's, are we putting ourselves out of business,
That's
right?
it. Okay, right. So I think what's interesting is that when I think about a nonprofit leader, right now I have a lot of empathy for what they have to be managing. So a lot of uncertainty around fiscal, finances,
Funding, absolutely.
budgets,
Yes.
at the state level, the federal level, a lot of changes, big sweeps that they can't necessarily predict.
Correct.
And that you have to react to, and not changes for a year, but maybe for several years.
Correct.
So I've certainly been in touch with a lot of teams that have been really fundamentally changed. AI, that's changing dramatically. I think it's an opportunity, but it's also scary.
Yes.
How many different resources are out there? How do you know which ones to vet? And then, of course, if we're being really practical, talent is what I focus on at LinkedIn. We're going to compete on things like salary and other sorts of,
Right.
fundamental things. So it is not an easy place to be a part of. It's not an easy place to, I think, hold down the fort, to stay confident around. I think it's really, really important. And so I've always been really passionate about making sure that there is a relationship between civic and businesses and a healthy kind of rapport between the two, because
Right.
we need each other.
Right.
Like if I think about corporations who get rid of, or for funding reasons, obviously, but they have to remove their corporate social responsibility or remove some sort of service day. One of the reasons why I think that's such a disappointment and such a maybe unstrategic move is those are the experiences that make your coworkers and your team feel connected.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
We do a day of service. That is what makes me feel like, okay, there's something bigger. I learned about my coworker. It wasn't just
Right.
about the skill or the project we work on. We had a bonding experience, right? Not to mention we did something great and
Right.
social impact related. And so in a similar way, I think the more there can be intersection between the nonprofit social impact world, financial world, business policy, et cetera. Like I think on an individual level and also obviously organizational, there's benefits. There are
Completely.
benefits to be had.
Well, because it moves from transactional to transformational.
Yes, well
Right.
said.
And that can't be downplayed, right? Because yes, we can interact and it can be transactional and then we can move on, right? Or we can try to strive for a deeper connection and be that much more intentional, and and what we don't even know what that may yield, right?
Absolutely.
And that's okay, right? And I think that the challenge I think for any leader, right? Whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, and again, that's just tax status, right? It's still a business that
Absolutely.
we still have a budget. We still have to live within our
Responsible
means,
for,
right? All of that, right? And we got to keep our lights on. We got to do all of that. But the ROI piece, right? And I think that can be a struggle on all fronts, whether it's for nonprofit, civic, right? It's there needs to be a focus to a point of what's the return on this, right? We have limited budgets, but I think there's also, if we become too focused on it, that's where I worry we become way too transactional, right? And it should be a longer play, but rarely are we given that opportunity, right? And so I think that's the balance that we try to strike.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I will talk with a lot of friends, coworkers, younger people around. There's a lot of passion around being in a helping profession of some
Absolutely.
sort. I think what that looks like can change. It doesn't mean you have to work at a nonprofit. It doesn't mean you have to. You could be volunteering. You could be doing something else. You could be. I think about when I was a people manager, being a coach, like influencing someone's career trajectory. I think is critical and really important.
Right.
Something that I have a lot of friends who are parents and a lot of conversation around social media and being disengaged and all of the sorts of things around it's becoming concerns around it becoming maybe a little too about optics and kind of
Sure.
aesthetics and that kind of a thing. I would say one of the best things my parents did for me and many of my friends was get involved in community service, whether it was through high school, whether it was through your church or your temple or whatnot, but be involved very intentionally in something civic-oriented. I think the values you learn from that are fundamental and will absolutely shape who you are, not just what you do.
Right.
So that's something that I don't know that I feel like it's happening as much. In COVID, certainly there were some changes around that, but that's something I would say. I have 2 7-year-old nephews, and we talk about that. Like we talk about okay, well, what can we do? What you've gotten all these toys for your birthday, but what else can we do for other folks?
Right.
I just think that is something that we kind of leave it to the nonprofit folks. We leave it to the mission-driven folks to take care of it. That's everyone's responsibility.
Right.
And I genuinely think people will be better off for it.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So is that where the drive for kind of the mission focus is that where it comes from? Your upbringing and your folks being that much more intentional in finding those opportunities for your family to be engaged?
Yeah. For sure. I think my parents are really kind, generous people. They were immigrants. They came over with very little. I think they experienced a lot of challenges and difficulties and racism and all sorts of stuff when they were coming up. And so being sensitive to being other was something that I think I was aware of, though I grew up awesome upbringing in southeastern Michigan. My brother was involved in service, and candidly, I think I thought it was cool. Like my older brother was involved in Key Club, and he did all these things, and those were his friends.
That must be a thing, right?
Like to some degree, I don't know if that it was this saint-like aspiration, but just it was fun, and that stuck. And so some of my closest friends I've known, since middle school and high school, and that was how we connected. And then I suppose it's kind of selfish, right? I feel good when I'm part of something bigger than me.
Right.
And so it's not all noble. But I think it comes down to what's your motivation?
Right.
Intrinsic, extrinsic, understanding that you can't always do what you love at work, right? We've got to be adults and practical.
Absolutely.
But
Got to pay the bills.
Exactly. But being in tune with how you're motivated, where your energy comes from, orienting to that when you can, it's a game changer. It doesn't have to be that every day is a slog.
No.
And so that is something that I think I've been, it's not always a good balance, but being mindful of that, I think for me has felt like I want to be part of something that's
bigger
positive.
than you.
Yeah, that's bigger than me.
Right. That's good.
And it's also okay for that to change too.
Completely.
And so I think that's something that we also have to talk about is it doesn't have to be this relentless, full dedication forever and ever.
Correct. Right. And I think we need to give ourselves that grace to acknowledge the ebb and flow of that. Right. And because, it can be a little bit overwhelming to be kind of on that treadmill, right? And like going. We got to solve this. We got to solve that. There's so much to be done. But there are times that it's okay to just step off the treadmill.
Yeah.
And just because frankly, we have to be fed, right? And folks do, right? It's not about one or two people. It's about this collective piece of how are we moving the ball forward.
Even something as simple as I need to go get skills, I need to get training, I need to have new experiences so I can be more effective in this role later.
Right.
And so a lot of times what I'll find with our nonprofit partners and people that I work with, they might have been there forever and ever and ever, and it's super admirable. But I sometimes want to say, hey, have you taken a beat to nourish you?
Right.
And if your focus is so much about the organization and the mission, are you doing what you need to do so that you can actually be more effective? You can have higher ROI.
Absolutely.
So I think there's just some different ways to look at it. But, candidly, I think something that the nonprofit community needs more of is more strategic mentorship and more resources so that they can be more effective. Right? They are businesses and organizations.
Absolutely.
And so they that is something I'm also passionate about is making sure they have what they need.
That's great.
To accelerate.
Right. And LinkedIn has a lot of programs in support of, right? There's so much learning that happens, intentional and otherwise, on LinkedIn. So are there any programs that you've seen over your time there that, we should all be aware of? Because, 9 times out of 10, and just speaking from my experience, I'm seeing what is kind of in my feed, and I'm not necessarily diving in to find something that might feed me or my team, right? So some helpful hints, some thoughts to kind of leverage what we know is already there.
I think there's a couple of things, and to demystify something like LinkedIn, it's a big topic. Keep it simple. So I think a couple of things. If you don't have a profile, there's tools on there to help you make a profile. It's the best thing you can do. If you're a nurse, if you are a truck driver, if you're a student, there is a place for everyone on there.
Yes.
And so I would just say it's not just for professionals. That's sort of the old mentality that's shifted a lot. For if you are in the nonprofit space, LinkedIn for Nonprofits has a really great resource hub with a ton of free resources to help you build out your company page, which is sort of your main presence on LinkedIn, to help get volunteers, different elements of that nature that don't cost anything. So LinkedIn for Nonprofits resource hub.
We'll put a link in the comments on that.
One thing that I think is really underutilized is there are lots of leaders on LinkedIn who aren't using their voices. And I think sometimes it's bandwidth and they're maybe not a social media person, but I think there's a lot of reluctance of maybe what I have to say isn't smart or valuable. Don't over-perfect it. Be you, right? I promise you, it's like going to the gym. No one's watching you run. Like I have to remind myself, no one is seeing me walk because I can't run.
You're not being graded?
No,
you don't think?
No, everyone is self-absorbed. Don't worry about it. But that connection a couple of days later, someone might see it. It might be valuable. And so perfection is the enemy of progress.
Amen.
That feels very personal to me. I know it. I live it all the time. It's something I'm working on. But I would say if you're an organizational leader or if you care, if you're a volunteer, you being positive and active is 10 times more important than having it be the exact message you want it to be. So just being out there, being active and connecting. If you're hiring for a role, yes, use certain tools that are going to help elevate that role. But just going out there and saying, hey, my team is hiring. If you know anyone great, send me a message. I think the human connection is the best part of a platform like LinkedIn. And it's how we even the playing field as much as we can.
Right.
There's always going to be politics and all of that. But, everyone has a chance to have a voice on there. And so to me, that's really powerful. And I think to myself sometimes oh man, I should have kept in touch with this person. Or in my head, there's always this, I'm not doing enough.
Right.
Even one connection, one engagement, it's a small contribution to that relationship. And so Nisaini Rexler, someone we know and care about a lot and really admire, she talks about how your network is your net worth all the time. And so it doesn't have to be this duplicitous meaning or duplicitous purpose, but I just think it is your chance to build that network. If you're an introvert, it's a fantastic way to have that be part of the conversation
completely
without having to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
So I underutilize it. It's something that I'm insecure about myself, but as we talk about it, I think to myself, we're lucky that we have this platform that we can really utilize to connect. And it doesn't always have to be for a professional purpose, right? So I would say just get involved. There's lots of great resources out there. And if you are an organization or a leader, it behooves you to be more active because that's just going to help, elevate
all of it.
Your organization.
Elevate your organization,
your mission,
elevate your your organization's brand, your people, right? Your individual brand, right?
Absolutely.
And and I think that's where, there's just a hesitancy to your point, right? That, I'm not the expert, right? So, I think kind of, I'm just going to stay on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm not the QB, I'm not
Right.
running point or whatever, right? And so I'm just going to kind of keep an eye and I like seeing what's happening, but that's not my role. And but sometimes we have to go outside our comfort zone, right? And like start a podcast, for instance, or something
Yeah.
crazy like that. Who in their right mind would do that, right? And some guy named JMO pushes you to it, right? And here we are. So, but in all honesty, there are so many pieces to that we don't even know where that connection comes from or
Absolutely.
leads to, right? And so better to be active than inactive, I think
Absolutely.
is kind of my mantra at times, right?
Absolutely. And within what's comfortable for you, right? 2 pro tips I want to mention. One
Great.
is have a photograph. So lots of people don't have a photograph. And in this world of cyber this and that and fraudulent blah, blah,
yes.
blahs, it gives legitimacy. So have a photograph. It's the easiest thing you can do. Make sure it's public to
Right,
everybody.
right.
I see a lot of nonprofit leaders who either don't have it or people can't see it because they're not connected.
Right.
And then I just have maybe an unpopular or controversial opinion, which
Ooh,
is
I like it. Bring it on.
I don't think everyone wants an expert all the time. There's a lot of people who purport to be experts that are not great or annoying, off-putting, whatever you want to call it. But I suppose I might be in the minority. When someone is a little imperfect, I find them 10 times more relatable. I'm much more interested in hearing about what didn't work for you and what you learned than hi, I'm the perfect XYZ and here was my plan.
Right.
That is it. That's just not how I
There you go.
find it to be relatable. And so
I like that.
Imperfection, I think, is actually what connects us more than the opposite, right?
So if I'm recording something, I shouldn't record it 27 times to
No.
try to get it perfect, right?
No. Well, and I do, just to be clear.
Right.
But that's because I'm battling the same thing of this perfectionism and what we're supposed to do versus, I think we've undervalued authenticity.
Yeah.
We were trying to make it performative, and that's the opposite of what it's supposed to be about.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I like
don't know.
that. That's wonderful. Wow. What insights?
And
Who knew?
listen, I guess
Who
I
knew?
am an expert.
Look at that.
Just
So
kidding.
I
Totally get it.
add it to the resume. Expert in what? Just I'm an expert.
Being an expert.
Right. Just
I'm an expert at
being an expert. Clearly. Are you not watching? Have you not kept track of what this is?
This is not going to be popular on Bumble.
Right.
Being an expert at being an expert.
You may have to adjust that.
I'll report
right.
back.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep us posted. Let the show know how it's
I
going.
will.
Right. Exactly.
Everyone will know.
Right. That's what I'm excited about. Right. So we got to promote.
Everything.
Absolutely. So, obviously you're committed, you're energetic, you're all of that, right? And I love it. But at some point, you've got to feed the rest of you, right? So, besides going to a TFA event, right? What else? We did talk about tennis. We talked about
Yep.
pickleball.
Controversial. I don't
Controversial,
think it's for you.
and no, it's not for me.
Okay,
It's not
which
for
is
me.
okay. It doesn't have to be for everyone. We have to stop pushing it on everyone.
Thank you.
It's not
Thank you.
for everybody.
Right.
Just say no if it's not.
Right. And I have, and I will continue
I
to.
support that.
Right. So you want to get back into tennis?
Yes.
We had that brief conversation.
Yes.
So what does that look like? We're recording this in May, so it will air sometime later, and hopefully you will have a chance to get outside, get some play in.
Yes.
And so what does that look like for you this summer?
Well, gosh, I think that summer in Chicago, right, just comes to life.
Amen.
With these festivals and the Riverwalk and the lakefront and all that kind of stuff. And so there's for everyone who says I don't know how you can manage Chicago winters. I'm like, well, you haven't been in Chicago summer.
Right.
It's like trade-offs. And I actually firmly believe I would be an unhappy person if I lived in San Diego. If it was 70 degrees and sunny all the time, you don't know what it's like to have a bad day.
Right.
We know pain. Right? So we've earned it. We've
Yes,
earned
we
the
have.
summer.
Yes, we have.
And so all the things like tennis and getting outside and having a drink on a patio and all of those things, it's the best season. In fact, I was talking with a few friends about making plans, and the conundrum is always, we don't want to leave Chicago in the summer.
Right.
Right. Like you don't want to make summer plans because we worked for this.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I think it feels like the world is returning back to a place of getting out and being more social. And
Love
so
it.
the best part is when you are out for whatever it is and have a conversation you didn't expect.
Right. There we
It's
go.
the best thing.
Right.
So that's what I've been.
That's
I'm
awesome.
excited about that.
Music? Are you a music fan? Do you like music?
I am a music fan. I have a lovely voice. I won't.
Right. Well,
teasing.
right.
I won't subject you to that. Yeah. So like festivals that are coming up. I was just mentioning. I think the Lollapalooza lineup just came out today.
Are you a Lala person? Have you?
I was in my youth,
Okay.
and now not
Not
so
so
much.
much.
But I'm excited about the music,
Right,
just not
right.
the experience.
There.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I don't like to have to use a porta potty. I'm past that point in my life.
Okay. There you go.
That is one of the things that we don't talk about with age. There's certain things that it's a gift. I don't have to use a porta potty anymore.
It's a choice. It's
Right.
a choice.
I've graduated from that
Right.
part of my
Look
life.
at you up top.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice.
See, it's not all bad,
Right.
guys. Aging has its benefits.
Right. Exactly. I
No
like that.
hostels.
Right. There you go. Right. So, it's also professional, right? You have a certain level of expectation, your own,
Exactly.
right? And
Design
this
the life you want.
right. Exactly.
porta
What does that look? What does that
I know
look
I'm
like?
talking about that a lot, but I do.
Right.
It is a fear.
But
It's a fear.
it's a fear. Interesting. All right, I don't think we're going to dive into
I don't
that.
think we
right?
should.
No, exactly.
We
so
can edit that out.
No, exactly. Oh, it won't get edited, but we won't dig any deeper into that if you don't mind. Right. So,
Peripheral.
getting back to Detroit at any time.
I hope so. Gosh, would love to go see the Tigers at some point. See my family. Yeah, I think we're going on a family trip this summer.
Oh,
and so
fun.
Yeah, it's
is that an
always-
annual thing or not so often?
Sometimes we
Okay.
have between different generations, and there's always some cultural fun. It's a production to make it happen, but it's always worth it. So
Do you guys wear matching T-shirts when you go?
We have in the past.
Really?
We have in the past, and I'm a big advocate. My dad's love language would be if I gave him a receipt and highlighted everything I returned. He does not want to spend money. This is true, Dad. So anything that costs money is not for him. But if I could DIY something, he'll get on board.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll need to see pictures. We'll need
For sure.
see some video evidence of,
For sure.
of the
Once
of this
gets
rollout.
booked.
Exactly. That's so great. So LinkedIn, you've been there for 7 years, right? It's really hitting the mark on a lot of
Yeah.
points, right? And thanks for the insights that you've shared, because frankly,
My pleasure.
I think we Oak Leyden, me, RJ McMahon, we don't always leverage it to the fullest extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm alone. I don't think
No, it's
organizationally, I don't think, right? So hearing that there are resources available, hearing that there's support out there, right? And that's important for all of us because we are resource strapped and we need to make sure that we're leveraging appropriately and adding value along the way, right? So that's very helpful. So thanks for sharing that,
pleasure.
right? And then what do you see that you like in LinkedIn when you're just kind of scrolling and your feed, something hits? Is it a video? Is it text? Is it pictures? What kind of hits for you? Because I think you're seeing a lot. A lot must come through your feed, and I'm just curious, kind of what sticks, because we all throw a lot of things against the wall and hope something sticks,
Yeah.
but you don't always know.
And I have a bit of an internal conflict answering that because it is a noisy place, right? Every place is noisy, in different ways.
Right.
And I sometimes cringe at the folks that are excessively posting or have really, really long diatribes about their learnings and whatnot. So I might be giving some conflicting advice here, but I would say, like anything, if you haven't been working out and you want to work out, just go for a walk. Just start, right? I would say that's the most important thing. If you're excited about certain organizations or you want to follow certain industries or topics, use this as a news source. I think that can be really important. It's not the only news source, I would say,
Right.
but it can be a really great way to kind of educate yourself about what's happening. My perspective as an organization, or if you have if you're leading something, or if you're nonprofit, or even a small business as an example, it doesn't have to be this super intentional strategy. just getting involved. The beauty of it is it's individual members, right? So it's just people having conversations.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be this manufactured, curated, 3 levels of comms approval to send this message out. It can just be, hey, I had this great event that I attended. It was so great. I learned X, Y, and Z.
Boom.
So putting on there, a couple pro tips, have a photograph. If you meet someone, connect with them on LinkedIn and tell them why you met them. Just be active. I mentioned
and comment, right? And engage in their content, right?
Exactly. And I don't know that I personally feel like the goal needs to be anything bigger than this is one other mechanism. This is one other communication or tool in your tool belt.
Right.
I think if you want to go out there and be an influencer, understand that that's for a lot of folks. Sometimes that reads the wrong way for me personally.
Sure.
I mentioned I like more of the flawed human people versus the perfection. But all that to say, I think it's just another way to connect with folks.
It's good.
And I think especially with our mission-driven community, there's a lot more focus on having it be perfect and not doing anything versus this is the medium that's available for you to further your cause, further your connections, bring in great people.
Right.
There's a lot of talented individuals out there that are looking for roles that may not be non-traditional or traditional hires.
Right.
They might not have those exact degrees that you're looking for, but could be huge assets.
Right.
And so I think it's a platform that gives people, an opportunity to connect in a way that you haven't before.
That's great. I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that. So one final bit of advice that you've been given over the course of time, could be family, could be a mentor, could be someone that you want to share with our intersection community.
Gosh, I've received all the information. Nothing that I've ever said in my life is a novel or individual idea. It's all repurposed. So I think the couple things that come to mind, ask questions, like in spite of being nervous, scared, or intimidated, ask questions, push through it. If you've got to do the figure eight around the room, that's okay. I did it too.
Right.
I went and had dessert quietly to avoid talking to people.
Right.
That's where I was. I wasn't talking to anyone, just having dessert. And the other thing that I love is a simple phrase. I think Nia Saini is one of many people that have shared this with me. Lift as you climb. So as you have success, pay it forward. Bring people along with you. It ought not to be a one-sum game where only one person can succeed.
Right.
So as if you're interacting with somebody, ask their feedback, even if they're someone that's more junior to you. I think there's something for us all to learn. So learn, ask questions, and then bring people along with you. We should all thrive together.
It's great. We're better together.
We are.
And stronger together.
We are.
So
and
let's
it's
make a
more
difference.
fun, by the way.
Absolutely.
It's lonely at the top by yourself. Not that I would know.
Right. No, but it's good to be on the ride together, right? So I'm grateful for that, and happy to be on your train as we're going through things. So
this was such a pleasure. I'm so grateful.
Thanks so much for joining us on the intersection, and just excited to see where this leads. So
indeed, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Continue to like and subscribe. The Intersection by Oak Leyden, and thank you, Nupur, for joining us. And really excited to just keep moving this thing forward.